The Maelstrom Hunter by Crimson QB Sage, Chapter 19, Painting the Town Orange. With Yang and Neptune in the ruined parts of Vale, the sound of an engine getting closer and closer was heard until Yang's motorcycle Bumblebee pulled into the street and stopped just short of the sidewalk. "Come on, my friend's right in here," Yang exclaimed after taking off her helmet. She got off of the bike to reveal Neptune sitting right behind her, hair and goggles messed up with a petrified expression of terror on his face. "Cool," Neptune mumbled, sounding dizzy, shaking his head somewhat, perfectly fixing his appearance. Neptune got off the cycle and looked around horridly. "And exactly where is here?" Inside the club, the music from the club blared as a man wearing a white dress shirt with a black vest over the top, a red tie, black gloves, and black dress pants talked with the shades stocked bottles, carried boxes, and otherwise stood around on the dance floor. The man had gray eyes, short black hair, and a black beard with mustaches. This was Hai Xiang, aka Junior, owner of the club. I'm telling you, I don't know anything," Junior exclaimed. "Come on, Junior, you owe me." Naruto stated his outfit had undergone a change like the rest of his team. He wore a long-sleeved black t-shirt and orange pants. On top of this, he wore a dark red Hiyori with black flames licking at the bottom. He also had the Uzugakure scroll of seals on his back. The necklace that Tsunade gave him hung around his neck, and a black headband with a metal plate in the front was wrapped around his forehead. The metal part of the headband had a familiar swirl-like symbol carved into it, and an unusual weapon was strapped to his back. The weapon was orange and black in color. 6 jagged blades like rings hung around a circular ring that connected to a long straight pole that had a trigger with a guard near the bottom. At the bottom was a long stalk that held what appeared to be a sniper magazine in it, and parallel to that was a scope that appeared to be able to shift places along the pole. "I'm sorry, Naruto, but I really have nothing on this Konoha place," Junior stated. Do you have anything that would be of any help at all?" Naruto asked. Junior looked hesitantly around the area, possibly to avoid the question. "Come on, Junior. Need I remind you of that incident a few years back?" Junior gave an involuntary shudder of fear at the mention of that incident. That incident was far worse than the one with that blonde-haired girl a few months back. Suddenly, a henchman came running inside. "Close the door. She's coming," the henchman exclaimed as he and another henchman proceeded to roll the door shut and keep them closed with their bodies. "What are you two idiots doing?" Junior yelled as he and Naruto walked out from the bar. The henchmen shouted incoherently until an explosion knocked them to the ground and forced doors open, allowing Yang to walk in through the smoke as a familiar song started playing. "Guess who's back?" Yang exclaimed. She continued to smile and pose as 8 guns were pointed in her face, with an equal number of angry henchmen behind them. Though this doesn't faze her, she stopped and glared at the recording studio where the track was messing up until the frightened bread-headed DJ took the needle off the record and retreated back under the table. "Yeah, so could you define friend for me?" Neptune questioned as he appeared behind Yang. "Hi, Yang," Naruto exclaimed, waving his arm at the fellow blonde. "Hi, Naruto. What are you doing here?" Yang asked as she waved back. Stop. Nobody shoot," Junior exclaimed, cutting his way through the crowd of goons. "We don't want anyone to do anything they'll regret." "You're just saying that because your insurance company jacked up the price to cover the club," Naruto exclaimed. "Blondie, you're here," Junior said, straightening his tie. "Why? You still owe me a drink," Yang said before grabbing Junior by the arm and dragging him to the bar through the hired guns. "Whoa ho ho, what a woman," Neptune said, breaking from his love-struck stare to see the 2 girls of the club. One was a teenage girl with long black hair and pale green eyes, highlighted by heavy cyan makeup. She wore a white strapless dress with cyan lining. The second girl was a teenage girl with short black hair and pale green eyes, highlighted by heavy red makeup. She wore a red strapless dress with black lining. These 2 were twin sisters, Melanie and Milsha said as they began. These 2 were twin sisters, Melanie and Milsha Malachite. "Sup?" Neptune said. Melanie and Milsha said as they began walking away, their nose in the air as they spoke in sync. Whatever. Aha! Good luck with that, dude, Naruto said as he laughed at the depressing cloud above Neptune's head. Those two are some of the most high standard expectation girls out there. And how do you know that? Neptune asked. We went on 3 dates a few years back, Naruto stated. Wait, what? Neptune said. How? Let's just say they're very good when it comes to blackmail, Naruto said, slightly shivering in fear. With Blake and Son. Meanwhile, with Blake and Son, Blake's fingers traced 3 scratch marks on a wall before pecking around its corner and seeing a pair of horn faunas as they were ushered into a building by a bearded man. Her outfit had undergone a change of attire. Blake now wore a white V-neck zip-up shirt that was black along the bottom and had mid-length sleeves. Her bandana flower emblem was printed in off-white on the left side of her shirt. She wore black pants that had a vertical gray stripe on the outer side of each leg, and she wore a black belt with them. Attached to the inner side of the belt was a black, somewhat curved, banner-like piece of fabric that hung from the back and extended forward to her hips. On the underside of this was a thinner, longer, similarly shaped purple piece of fabric. Her black high-heeled boots came halfway up her calves and had a pair of belted straps across them. She still wore her black ribbons on her arms and her black bow on over top her cat ears. And this is it, Blake said. You sure? And Son asked as Blake glared at him and started moving towards the entrance while unfastening her bow. You know, I'm just gonna take your word for it. The two walked inside the building to a hallway filled with cases. New recruits, keep to the right, a man announced at the younger pair as they followed. I don't get it, Sun said, holding out the half mask in his hand. If you believe what you're doing is right, why hide who you are? The masks are a symbol. Humanity wants to make monsters out of us, so we chose to don the masks of monsters, Blake explained. Grim masks? That's kind of dark, Sun commented. So was the guy who started it, Blake said, putting her mask on and walking onward. Always sunshine and rainbows with you, Sun said, following her lead. The new recruits to the White Fang were moving in a line to the side of the stage, a mere few dozen compared to the hundreds of white-vested, black-hooded soldiers to their left and up above the balconies. Blake and Sun look around themselves when they stopped, and a fully masked man with tattoos stood and started speaking before the large sheet emblazed with the bloody wolf and claw marks. Thank you all for coming. Those of you who are joining us for the first time tonight, allow me to introduce a very special comrade of ours. I can assure you he is the key to obtaining what we have fought for so long, the White Fang lieutenant exclaimed. The dark pants and brown shoes stepped forward before the orange tip of a certain cane tapped on the stage. Smiling confidently at the crowd despite the protest from said crowd was Roman Toshwick. Thank you, Roman said, waving mockingly. As he spoke, a woman with pink and brown hair and a familiar shark-like noonkin walked out from behind the stage. Please, hold your applause. What's a human doing here? An antler faunus in the crowd called out, pointing at Roman. I'm glad you asked, dearie. Now, I'll be the first to admit, humans are the worst, Roman said, saluting as an example. Case in point, so I understand why you would like to see us all locked away, or better yet, killed. So, is he going somewhere with this? Sun whispered, leaning over to Blake. The two had the demonic masks of the White Fang on their faces to conceal their identities. But before the claws come out, I'd like to mention the fact that you and I all have a common enemy, the ones in control, the people pulling the strings, the dirty, rotting humans that run our kingdoms, Roman stated, the crowd changing their tune and starting to agree with him. Government, military, even the schools, they're all to blame for your lot in life, he exclaimed, letting the crowd cheer as the two students shared a look. And they're all pests that need to be dealt with. Fortunately, I'm the best exterminator around. No offense to any rodents in the room. With a snap of his fingers, the curtain behind him fell, and the whole mass faunus applauded at the sight of what was behind the falling curtain. Looming on the stage was an enormous mech with various guns and the White Fang symbol emblazed on one side of it. This was the yet-to-be-released at Legion Paladin 290. Whoa, that's a big robot, Sun said. How did he get that? Blake asked. As some of you might have heard, this right here, Roman started tapping the giant mech, is Atlas's new defense against all the scary things in the world, and thanks to my employer, we've managed to snag a few before they hit the shelves. Now many of your brothers have already moved down to our new operation in the southeast. If you'd rather stay within the city, that's fine, but if you're truly ready to fight for what you believe in, this is the arsenal I can provide you. Any questions? The White Fang's roaring applause was the response he got. We should get out of here, Blake whispered to Sun. Will all new recruits please come forward? The White Fang lieutenant commanded. Well, Sun said as the line surged forward, with the two having to follow. With Naruto, Yang, and Neptune back at the club, Junior placed his glass down as he sat behind the bar, separating him from his interrogator and his ex-bouncer. I don't know, Junior exclaimed. You're losing your edge, dude, Naruto said before downing another drink. How can you not know? Yang questioned him. I haven't talked to him. I haven't even seen him since the night you first came in here, Junior said, leaning over to point in Yang's face. He paid up front. I lent him my men, and none of them ever came back. So where did they go? Neptune asked, rushing to Yang's side to raise a question of his own. What kind of stupid question is that? They never came back, Junior said before looking at the two blondes. Who is this guy? Don't worry about him. Worry about me if I don't find out what I want, Yang said, pushing Neptune out of the way with one hand. I already told you everything. Torchwick hired my boys, and I guess he wasn't happy with them, which is something I can relate to, Junior said, directing that last part at his men, who grumbled and walked away in response. Come on, Naruto, Neptune, Yang said, turning from the bar and walking away. No, can do. I've got my own investigation going on. I'll see you guys back at Beacon, hopefully, Naruto said before heading off in a different direction than the two. We got everything we need, Neptune asked, following Yang with his hands in his pockets. Well, we got everything we can. Hopefully the rest of the team is having better luck, Yang said. Outside the club, are you sure this is the right place? Choji asked. This is the place. My Shintenshi no Jutsu doesn't lie, Ino said. This is all so troublesome, Shikamaru stated. Why are we here again? Choji questioned. Because this is apparently the best place in the underworld to get information, Ino said. Troublesome, Shikamaru said. The three continued walking towards the club until they froze up as they saw a familiar face, one they had not seen in 3 years. Naruto, Choji called out, causing the blonde fox fawness to freeze up, his head mechanically turning to the source of the voice. Oh, damn, Naruto said. A small awkward silence permeated the area as the three Konoha representatives stared down the blonde. This went on for a few seconds before Naruto jumped away, using his tracker to stick to the side of the building and escape to the roof. Wait! Shikamaru called out, but it was too late. Troublesome, he sighed before the Ino Shikachou team leapt after Naruto. With Blake and Sun, the White Fang was still cheering loudly as the recruits were marched to the stage, with Blake and Sun having no choice but to follow along. What are we going to do? Sun whispered to Blake. I'm thinking, Blake said. Roman leaned on the robot, smoking his cigar and laughing with the girl and Kisame before he zeroed in on the two, frowning. He sees us, Sun said as he tried to smile and wave. He can't see us in the dark, Blake said, noticing the junction box on the wall. With that, Blake unsheathed Campbell's shroud, transforming it into a pistol, and shot out the box, making the lights go out for the whole building. Don't let them get away, Roman exclaimed. Sun, the window, Blake exhaled. Stop them, Roman yelled, before the two student huntsmen crashed through the window and started running as fast as they could. The mechanized sound of running power signaled that Legion Paladin's activation, and they crashed through the wall of a building in pursuit of the runaways, who leapt off of a car and managed to get on the roofs. The Paladin followed beside them on the street as Blake and Sun ran, jumped, and flipped from rooftop to rooftop. Kisame watched this all unfold as a large menacing grin began to spread across his face. He grabbed Samehara and was about to chase after the two problematic huntsmen in training, but was stopped by a hand on his shoulder. Standing behind him was Madara Uchiha. All in due time, Kisame, Madara stated before he disappeared in a spiraling vortex. So, you wouldn't happen to have, I don't know, some form of backup? Sun asked amidst twirls in the air. On it! Blake exclaimed, grabbing her scroll and putting it to her ear as she continued to jump. With Weiss and Roshi were seen leaving the cross-continental transmit tower's elevator when Weiss grabbed her own scroll and listened to Blake's message. Everyone, if you can hear me, we need back. Blake started. Help! His son exclaimed. Finally, some action, Roshi exclaimed, his fist pumping into the air. Weiss just rolled her eyes and started running out the door, a small smile on her face as she did so. With Ruby was still beside the dumpster, which was now boarded up to keep the rat imprisoned, staring at her scroll. Big robot, and it's big, really big, Sun exclaimed. Oh, and I'm not missing this, Ruby exclaimed, running off to join the fight. with Yang and Neptune. Yang was back on the motorcycle in her helmet and sunglasses, with Neptune looking at the scroll in her hand over her shoulder. That Toshrikai is in it, but not like it didn't eat him. He's like controlling it or something, Sun exclaimed over the scroll call. Where are you guys? Yang asked. Right on cue behind them, Blake and Sun could be seen running through the street with the paladin hot on their heels before they disappeared from view. Hurry! Sun exclaimed, both in person and on the scroll. I think that was them, Neptune stated. Yeah, I got it, Yang said, putting the scroll away and quickly circling her ride around, much to Neptune's alarm, and drove off to follow them. With Naruto leapt from rooftop to rooftop in an attempt to escape. Looking behind him, Naruto saw his old friends chasing after him in pursuit. I gotta find a way to throw them off, Naruto thought before grabbing the weapon off his back. As he did so, he remembered how he came into possession of such a weapon. Flashback start. Naruto opened up the scroll that Tsunade gave him before leaving. As she said, there was about 20,000 sharpened kunai and shuriken, a strange fox-like Ambu mask, and a single bowl of ramen and a note. What the heck? Naruto exclaimed. Just shut up and read the note, Kurama exclaimed in an attempt to stop another one of Naruto's ramen rants. Fine, Naruto mentally replied, grumbling as he did so. Dear Naruto, I figured that the first thing you do is go for the ramen, so I placed the seal on the scroll so that you can only get one ramen a day. That way you wouldn't go and demolish it all in one go. Love, Tsunade Bachan. After reading the note, Naruto crossed his arms and pouted in a childish manner. Despite this, he knew that Tsunade was just looking out for him in some way. Placing the steaming bowl of ramen aside, Naruto dug through the rest of the scroll to see what was there. What he found was shocking, something that was not in the scroll that Kakashi gave him. Kurama said nothing, his eyes narrowing slightly at the sight of the familiar weapon that his container held in his hands. Naruto was silent as he held the knife-like weapon in his hands. Pocketing the weapon, Naruto dug through the scroll once more and found what he was looking for, the chakra metal. Kagebunshi no Jutsu, he called out as three Narutos appeared in a puff of smoke. A look was exchanged between the three clones as the original before the three clones nodded, taking the chakra metal and going off elsewhere. What are you up to, Naruto boy? Paul asked as he approached the blonde fox faunes for the first time since Jiraiya's death. Just a little side project, Naruto stated after seeing all these strange weapons that, I will admit, are far beyond the weapons that we have in the elemental nations. I decided to make one of my own. He pulled out a small notebook that he kept on his person and opened up to one of the middle pages, showing its contents to Paul. The elder toad looked over its contents before his eyes widened. What exactly is this? Paul asked. The contents of the page revealed numerous drawings of strange but similar weapons that appeared to be a combination of a shakujo, a sasumato, a spear, and a sniper. It's a weapon that Haranjiji and I came up with, but never got around to finish, Naruto exclaimed, partly because of lack of time too, and also because of lack of necessary resources. How long until it's finished? Paul asked. With the help of clones, maybe a week, 2 weeks max, Naruto said. Alright, in the meantime, it's time for you to perfect the taijutsu style of senjutsu, Paul said. Flashback end. Naruto grabbed the hybrid weapon, which he dubbed Nanamagari Daikanran off his back as it morphed into its sniper form and took a shot at the platform behind him so as to slow his old friend's pursuit, which it did as Ino, Shikamaru, and Choji landed on said platform as they fell down, though this did not slow down their chase as they leapt off the platform with a chakra-enhanced jump. Mentally cursing, Naruto had proceeded to fire off shots at the three, who in turn dodged the projectiles. What do I do, Fox? Naruto mentally asked. Wear them down before running again, Kit, Kurama replied. Following the advice of the fox, Naruto stopped running, morphed his weapons into its Sasumata form, and got into a defensive stance. Choji, attack pattern Delta, Shikamaru ordered, getting nods from his two teammates. Shikamaru started to the right, Ino started straight to the left, and Choji went straight for Naruto. Baika no Jutsu, Choji exclaimed as he turned into a human boulder. Nukudan Sensha, he said as he charged at Naruto. Suiton Hahon Ryo, Naruto exclaimed after quickly doing the three necessary hand signs. With that, water spilled around Naruto's free hand and shot at Choji, effectively standing the Akamichi back. The moment he did so, Naruto froze up. Shadow possession complete, Shikamaru stated. Doton Kengan no Jutsu, Ino exclaimed after doing the 6 hand seals, her right hand becoming enhanced in stone as she charged at Naruto with the intent of making physical contact. Luck for Naruto, the Kaorimi no Jutsu is a shinobi's best friend. Moments before Ino hit Naruto, he said Blood Fox Furnace was replaced with a log in a puff of smoke. The trio, Joji's having rejoined the fight the moment after, did not have to look around for long to find the blonde. Rasengan! Naruto exclaimed as the technique landed on Ino, sending the girl flying into the corresponding wall. What? But I didn't see him use any hand seals for the Kaorimi. Shikamaru thought his thinking was interrupted when he had to dodge a strike from Naruto's weapon, which was now in its Shakujomo form. After dodging a fifth strike, Naruto threw a smoke pellet down. When the smoke cleared, Naruto was no longer in sight as the trio looked around for the blonde. Ino, Shikamaru said. Right, Ino said, nodding her head as she used her sensory ability in an attempt to find Naruto. I can't find him, she said in surprise, with Blake and Son. Blake and Son somehow managed to make it to the highways, jumping down into the busy street and continuing their escape by hopping on cars while the paladin followed them by pushing vehicles out of the way. Son paused to look at their pursuer's path of destruction. Whoa, he exclaimed before leaping onto more cars, much to the anger of Roman inside the robot, his face surrounded by blue holographic screens. Yang and Neptune were able to follow the mech suit on the right, coming up next to it as it ran. We've got to slow it down, Yang exclaimed. Got it, Neptune said, reaching for the gun on his back. Roman noticed the pair on his sensors and crashed into a multitude of cars with the paladin's strong book, sending them flying towards his chasers. Hold on, Yang said as she swerved, leaning her bike to the side in avoidance of flying debris. Whoa, what? Neptune exclaimed, flailing around in panic. Back on two wheels again, Neptune unslung his weapon and aimed it at the paladin, sparks flying off of it before several bolts of blue electricity shot at the massive mech, causing Roman to grimace from the force of the attacks. Switching strategies, Neptune flipped the gun and it grew a shaft and an energy blade at the end, then jumped from Blake's bike as the spear's head began to split in three and drove it into the top of the paladin. Suddenly Blake paused in their car, hopping to look back. Neptune, hang on, Son exclaimed. Neptune tried his best, but the mech kept bucking and threatening to make him fall. Closing his eyes, Son smashed his palm together, and from the golden aura around him, his semblance created two glowing outlines that copied the creator, leaping off and going back over the tops of the vehicles to collide into the paladin's front. They exploded into blinding light upon contact to let Son leap forward with his staff held high, but Roman finally turned enough to send Neptune flying off and knocking into his leader, sending both of them off the highway. With Naruto. Naruto was jumping from rooftop to rooftop, having suppressed his chakra to avoid being found by Ino, Shikamaru, and Choji, when he suddenly and finally sneezed in midair, causing him to lose his focus and slam into the solid concrete of the top floor of a building. What the heck was that, Kit? Kurama yelled. I have the strangest feeling, Naruto thought. Somebody just ripped off my signature jutsu. Shaking his head, Naruto continued jumping when his scroll rang. Opening up the scroll, Naruto saw it was Fu and Han. Naruto, we're at the agreed upon location. Where are you and Roshi? Fu asked. I just had a run-in with a few old friends. I'm heading there right now, Naruto said. I may be a while, Roshi said over the scroll call. What did you do, Roshi? Han asked. I didn't do anything, I swear, Roshi said in defense. Blake, I'm in position, Weiss said in the background of Roshi's side of the scroll call. What was that? Fu asked. Well, Roshi started. Please don't tell me, Han stated. I sort of tagged along with Team Ruby, and long story short, we have a giant robot that is meant to come out next year being piloted by that Roman Torchwick guy chasing after us, Roshi said. You've got to be kidding me, Han said. Where are you, Roshi? Naruto asked. We're somewhere along YD9 heading southwest, Roshi replied. Alright, change of plans. We meet up with Roshi and do our best to assist Team Ruby, Naruto stated. Hi, the three other members of Team Archfiend chorused before the scroll call ended. Putting the scroll away, Naruto focused on getting to Ruby and the others. Suddenly, a swirling vortex appeared a few kilometers ahead of him, causing Naruto to stop dead in his tracks to avoid charging through the strange portal. A strange, mysterious man wearing a black cloak and an orange swirl mask with an eye hole appeared. What caught Naruto's attention was the red cloaks along the cloud. Akatsuki, Naruto thought with wide eyes. with Team Ruby and Roshi. Moments after the scroll call, Weiss jumped up and twirled over the highway and landed in the middle of the road, holding Mertonaster at the approaching Roman. He smiled at as his robot charged the girl, but Weiss spun and plunged her blade into the ground, summoning a circle of ice across the pavement that caused the paladin to slip and crash, actually flying over the young huntress and falling off the ramp, landing further down before Ruby already having her crescent rose out in scythe form. The paladin stood back up, and the rest of Team Ruby and Roshi fell beside Ruby to take up positions. Roman chuckled, moving the robot slowly towards the girls. Freezer burn! Ruby exclaimed as she and Blake jumped back out of the way as Weiss performed her same ice circle trick, but backed out of Yang's way when she jumped into the air and smashed the epicenter of her ember silica, creating a wave of mist that surrounded Roman. Immediately, the paladin activated its laser sensors to make up for the lost sight, but it barely saw the after image of Blake and narrowly missed the dashing Yang. A gun managed to fire at the area between Blake and Yang, but out from the blast came Ruby, who slashed the metal with her blade, causing it to falter. Checkmate! Ruby yelled. Blake and Weiss went in this time, each girl going for the feed until Weiss jumped up and stabbed the sensor before leaping off of a white glyph. Roman lifted the paladin's foot to crush Blake, but Weiss summoned another glyph under her teammate to launch her backwards before the crushing blow could land. Roman growled and fired off the missiles, but Weiss and Blake flipped backwards as the explosions were merely hit where they were. Finally, Weiss jumped up too high, and Roman fired a double energy blast at her. Mertonaster absorbed the damage, but Weiss was thrown back, so she cast a beam of light in midair from her weapon to the ground under Blake, forming a yellow clockwork circle that was absorbed into the Faunus girl, allowing her to slice through each lanced missile with ease in a flurry of super fast slashes. Weiss flew through the air, fully expecting to land on the ground in a large impact, but was caught by a pair of arms. Mind if I drop in? Roshi asked, holding Weiss in his arms as he landed back on the ground. Put me down, Weiss ordered. Whatever you say, Princess Permafrost, Roshi said before placing Weiss down on the ground with Naruto. So this is the QB Jinchuriki, Madara said. Who are you? Naruto yelled. I am no one, Madara said. Now why don't you just give yourself up peacefully, and then all your pain will vanish? Why don't you go serve yourself on a silver platter to a pack of ravenous Beowulfs? Naruto said, getting into his incomplete Furakata stance. There's no way I'll just give myself to the Akatsuki. I guess we'll be doing this the hard way then, Madara said. Naruto growled before charging at Madara. His fist extended to punch the man, only for his attack to pass right through the mysterious Akatsuki member. What? Naruto questioned. Foolish boy, you cannot defeat me, Madara said, ripping a nearby pipe out and slamming it into Naruto's left side. Gah! Naruto cried out. He lifted his teeth and got out before charging at Madara again, only for the same thing to happen. Kid, I have an idea, Kurama exclaimed. I'm listening, Naruto mentally said. All your efforts are futile, Madara stated. Naruto just growled and charged at Madara, forming a Rasengan in one hand. As he did so, Madara, having decided to finish this fight, charged forward as well as at Naruto. The distance between them became meters away before Naruto pulled out an also familiar kunai that Madara instantly recognized. Naruto then threw the Hiraishin kunai at Madara, watching it pass through the body as time seemed to slow down for Madara. At the last second before the two made contact, Naruto disappeared in a yellow flash, much to surprise the Madara. Not a second later, Naruto reappeared over the Hashirama kunai he threw. The Rasengan still in hand as he grabbed the kunai he just threw, while simultaneously smashing the spiraling ball of energy into Madara. This time, the attack made physical contact with Madara as he was slammed into the ground. How could I have fallen for the same trick twice? Madara thought as he lay there on the cracked rooftop. Ha! It worked, Naruto said, slightly panting as he did so. Gripping his father's kunai in his hand, he was about to implant it through the mysterious Akatsuki member when the same vortex that brought him here appeared around Madara, and Naruto had to jump back to avoid being caught in the vortex and watch as Madara disappeared. Damn it! He got away, Naruto thought, but you at least found out his ability's weak spot, Naruto said, and you managed to use your father's jutsu. Yeah, there's that, Naruto thought before focusing on heading over to regroup with the rest of his team and Team Ruby. With Team Ruby and Roshi, Ladybug! Ruby exclaimed, running into the fray as she shoved herself forward and cutting the robot's legs. Then, turning as Blake aimed herself at the giant's feet as well, they both dashed forward and attacked at the same time, circling each other around the paladin with each strike until they both launched themselves into the air and coming up down together on the shoulder, cutting off the left arm entirely. Yang didn't waste a second, jumping onto the paladin's back and punching the top with wiry shotgun blast. Roman was knocked around in the cabin, but seeing as he couldn't reach her with his remaining mechanical arm, he ran backwards through two columns and leaving her embedded in a third before backing away and turning towards her. Just as she is falling down, the remaining arm extended a closed fist, but didn't reach her. Sticking to the wall and blocking the fist with her present weapons was Han and Fu. With their combined effort, the two members of Team Archfiend pushed the robotic fist away before steam started coming off of Han, while Fu picked up Yang and brought her over to the others. What's happening to Han? Yang asked. Don't worry, this is just one of his abilities, Fu explained. His Biju gave him immense control over steam. Han jumped forward, his face becoming covered in steam as he did so. Fuinsuken, Han exclaimed as his steam covered Han exclaimed as his steam-covered fist impacted against the paladin, causing it to go flying and its remaining arm to tear off whilst it crashed into a pillar. The armless robot got back up, Han's steam being replaced with a dark red shroud that had the outline of a single tail before splitting into two tails. Dark horse! Ruby exclaimed. Blake threw her gamble shroud out for Han to catch. After catching the weapon, Blake pulled on the weapon and began to swing the red shrouded horse faunus around for a final hit to the robot. Roman, however, stepped out of the way just in time to avoid complete destruction. We have to slow it down, Ruby said. And how do you propose we do that? Weiss questioned him. Ice flower, Ruby exclaimed. The two girls twirled their weapons so they both pointed at Roman. Weiss created a series of glyphs in front of the scythe sniper barrel, and a single shot through the circle created a dazzling spiral of energy that created large icicles upon impact with the paladin. Ruby continued to shoot as Weiss froze the fire, and as the ice completely enveloped the robot's body, Blake swung Han around in a circle once more time. But with Roman unable to move, the paladin was hit by the speed and power of Han's foot. Fungo Kyaku, Han exclaimed as his foot impacted against the frozen robot, causing it to fly into the air before crashing down in 100 pieces and a defeated criminal. Just got this thing cleaned, Roman said as he got up, slightly dazed but unharmed. As he inspected the damage while brushing himself off, he looked up just in time to see Han, still covered with his two-tailed chocolate cloak, throw a steaming punch at the defenseless thief, but he saved at the last minute when Kisame appeared, his large sword drawn as it absorbed the chocolate cloak. Standing next to him was the same two-tone girl from before, her pink umbrella opened and hanging over her shoulder. Ladies, Jinchuriki, Ice Queen, Roman said, addressing the group in front of him. Hey, Weiss exclaimed, feeling slightly ticked off at the nickname. Han, Roshi, and Fu's eyes narrowed and glared at Roman as if to try and burn a hole through his head using their minds. Always a pleasure. Neo, if you would, Roman said. The pink and brown girl cursed her enemies with a bow while Kisame just flipped them off, kicking off Yang as she charged forth with fists raised to strike the trio, only to break their image as if made out of a mirror and turn just in time to see them escape in a bullhead, more specifically Kisame flipping them off with a large grin on his face. So, I guess he got a new henchman, Yang said, and he's now in league with Akatsuki, Fu added. Yeah, I guess she really made our plans fall apart, Weiss said jokingly. Ruby giggled, and Blake, Fu, and Hans started walking away. Boo, Princess Permafrost, boo, Roshi said. No, just no, Yang said. What, would you do it? Weiss exclaimed. There's a time and a place for jokes, Yang stated. What, this not it? Weiss stated. No, it just wasn't very good, Roshi said, as he and Yang followed Blake. Well, at least I'm trying. Weiss said. Wait, where are Sun, Neptune, and Naruto? Ruby asked. With Sun, Neptune, and Naruto? Sun, Neptune, and Naruto were seen sitting on the stools of a small open bar restaurant that went by the name A Simple Wok Noodle House. Sun and Neptune occupied the middle stools, while Naruto sat on the far left one, their weapons leaning on the counter as they ate their plates of noodles with Edward Elric behind the counter. They're probably fine, right? Neptune asked. Probably. Sun and Naruto replied at the same time. His question having been answered, Neptune turned back to his noodles, the other two doing the same as the three ate in silence. Omake, Naruto's date with Naruto's date with Melanie and Milsham. Naruto stretched and gave a sigh as his work day was finished. He was working out of the club as their bouncer for a few months now. Hey, he discovered he could get work. He'd taken work on his way out. Naruto saw the twin sisters, Melanie and Milsha, approach him. Hey, Melanie. Hey, Milsha. What's up? Naruto asked. We want you to take us out on a date, the two girls said at the same time. I'm sorry, what? Naruto said. We want you to take us out on a date, Melanie said. Any particular reason why? Naruto asked. Because you're cute, Milsha replied. And if you don't, we'll just release this video we have of you, Melanie stated, holding up her scroll and pressing the play button, revealing a rather embarrassing video of Naruto dancing around in his underwear. How did you get that? Naruto asked nervously. That's not what you should worry about, Milsha said. What you should worry about, Melanie started, is what you'll be wearing, and Milsha continued, and where you'll take us, Melanie continued, on our date. Melanie and Milsha finished in sync. And I have your words that this won't get out if I do, Naruto questioned. Yes, the two girls replied. All right, Naruto conceded. 3 days later, Naruto walked through the doors to the warehouse he lived in, his body riddled in scratches, scorch marks, lipstick, and dust. He had originally wore a black suit jacket and orange tie, but the jacket was now clutched in his hand, and the tie was loosened, the top button of his white dress shirt having been unbuttoned. As he walked over to the makeshift bed that he slept on, Haran watched him slump down onto the bed in a heap with a look of amusement. So, Haran started. How did it go? Shut up, Naruto mumbled. Just shut up. The next day, if one were to see the blonde-haired fox fungus, they would find a surprise. Naruto appeared to be exhausted and comically crying, having spent more than 650,000 lien in one night. End of chapter 19.